Doctor, please, can I talk with you just 5 minutes?
Talk to me for 5 minutes?
Yes. Excuse me. I am with Dr. Nuha on Sunday from 10 to 12, but I want to take the lecture with you because I am work. I can't balance with my work and university.
It's okay, Shuru.
Exam with Dr. Nuha.
طيب, you don't have a problem, inshallah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll talk to Miss Noha and see what we can arrange for you. You don't have to just attend, and things will go smoothly, inshallah. Okay, so yeah. Okay.
I want to ask a question.
I mean, is it? Okay, go ahead.
Can you repeat the part about resources?
Okay, I will. Inshallah. Okay, so as we have indicated more than once, I want you to keep your mics muted unless and until perhaps I ask you to talk or you have a question of substance. Let's leave the procedural issues behind us and start addressing some substance. Okay. I think I'll load the slides that I have. Where are they? Okay. Do I have that? It should be on. It's on. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Can you see this very ravaging, I mean, in terms of beauty, lady? I mean, Killupatra? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Type. Okay. Type. So what's happening? Fix a problem and you end up having another one. Okay. Anyway. So this is Killupatra, everyone, and this is book 1. Remember, book 1 is or has the title Reputations, and there will be context for a number of figures. This context can sometimes be historical, can be even literary, where we would have those figures set against their time and against their, people and culture, and see what will come out of this kind of pitting. We're pitting the characters against their backgrounds, historical, cultural, or any otherwise. So we're starting with Cleopatra, but we're not going to end there. Of course, we have other characters like Christopher Marlowe, who we're doing perhaps next time. And we're going to also have Cézanne. What binds them together would be the idea that these are figures of controversy. Controversy means that you don't have total agreement on them. People are polarized over their characters. Some people believe in them, they like them so much, and they are ready to go to any length to defend them, and some other people hate them like you can never imagine, and they are ready to do anything to prove them wrong or to prove them bad and everything. And we are obviously caught in the crossfire. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed not to take sides. We need to kind of have a neutral look. We need not to subscribe to what other people say and believe unless we have concrete evidence. This is actually one big lesson we intend for you to come out with. The idea that you shouldn't be taking things for granted. You shouldn't be taking what other people are saying for granted. You have a mind of your own, and you need to challenge concepts and ideas. However lofty, however sacred, if you like, these ideas are. This is the message that we're trying to get across to you. And we're starting with Killupatra. Like I said, there has been a great deal of talk about Killupatra, and Killupatra has been depicted in different colors, if you like. She's blackened like you can never imagine by some people. Her reputation is tarnished, and there are people who are in a kind of in favor of her, and they seem to be perhaps missing some of her bad spots. I mean, typical of human beings, she has good points, and she also has bad characteristics to her reputation. Okay, so like I said, the common theme across the book, the theme that cuts across the entire book would be the idea of reputations. Reputations, of course, good and bad. You know, you can be reputed in a positive way, and you can also be infamous. Infamous means that you are reputed in a bad way, especially in our time and age where, I mean, we have now the internet, and we have the social networks, and where you can be very famous, but in a negative way, because you have done a stunt, you have the reputation is not all good news. Okay, so this applies very much to the character of Killupatra, as we have seen and as we're going to see. Okay, so I would like you to look at the figures that will be featured, whether we're talking about Killupatra, Christopher Marlowe, or the other characters. I would like you to look at them as case studies. So what is it that we're studying and we're setting them against? It's the idea of reputations, good or bad. Again, the idea of, you know, not subscribing to what other people are saying, simply because they are perhaps old, perhaps they are part of a tradition that we hold dear and near to our hearts. No. You have, like I said, an independent mind, and you have to come up with your own fresh conclusions about things. Okay, so where do we fit those different figures that we're going to have? Killupatra, by definition, would be classical studies. When we do Cézanne, this is going to be art history, or the history of art, because he happens to be a painter. We will have, you know, English studies and English literature when we deal with Christopher Marlowe, for example. Yeah, this is basically the fields of knowledge that we're going to address ourselves to. Okay, so Killupatra again, and these are the items that we have been talking about. We started off last time talking about the impressions that we have when the name is dropped. When we drop the name Killupatra, and we came up with different, you know, impressions. Some of them are positive, and some others are negative, for obvious reasons, of course. The idea of having uniformity when it comes to opinion does not obviously exist. People have different opinions because, I mean, it all, you know, boils down to where they come from, what kind of education they have, what their culture, what their gender is, and a lot more. Okay, so I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, we talk about Killupatra and you take the side of Killupatra and you think that she's good and everything, and she's perhaps more sinned against than sinning and all these kinds of, because you're, for the most part, most of the class are women, and she is a woman. But that shouldn't also cloud our judgment. If she's good, we say that she's good. If she is bad or she has things that we should reconsider about her character, we should also objectivity has it that we need to talk about the good as well as the bad. We spoke about how our impressions were made and developed when it comes to the character of Kiribatra. We spoke about the sources that we are that inspire us when it comes to the character of Killupatra. And we said that, of course, Hollywood is all over the place. And of course, you have this the toll that media has on people. You can be reading hundreds of books on somebody, but a movie, only one movie can make all the difference, regardless of the books that you have perhaps read. So again, most of our impressions were taken or made based on the movies that we have seen on and about Killupatra. Again, are we going to shouldn't we revisit those impressions and see whether they were correct or wrong? Yeah, we should, of course, right? Especially when we get to know, for example, that cinema is or directors' interpretations of events in the past are not, always accurate. I mean, the idea of perhaps accuracy is not a top priority when it comes to cinema. I mean, the appeal is normally graphic, and they appeal to perhaps the senses of people. That's why perhaps Cleopatra is presented as one is a very beautiful lady, but when you go to the sources, you would find that she wasn't that beautiful, and perhaps she was beautiful in character. I mean, beauty is obviously something that that was not, her number one feature. Again, you would revisit your impressions if they come from the cinema, because the focus with the cinema is on the box office, on revenue, and on how to make money. And like I said the other day, you're likely to find cinema makers interested in presenting whatever is appealing, whatever is beautiful, so that they can attract you, and you end up buying a ticket, going to the cinema and stuff like that. Okay. When we speak, obviously the chapter is divided into 3 sections. You have this impressions part, which we have covered last time when we spoke about the associations that we have when the name is dropped, when Cleopatra's name is mentioned, right? And then we spoke about Cleopatra and how she is presented in Hollywood, and how we have inherited those views and those impressions from Hollywood. And then we will move all the way from Hollywood in the modern time to ancient Rome and ancient Egypt. We're going all the way back 2,000 years back, to be more specific, where we will have a number of sources, and those sources will give us insights into the character of Killupatra. Should we take them for granted? Should we accept them as is? Should we embrace those sources? No. We should, like we said, we should challenge them, and we should see whether they we should, of course, like I said, we should deconstruct them and see whether they were truthful, honest. We need to explore the motivations of those who wrote those sources and see whether those people were innocent and they didn't have hidden agendas or not. The sources that we'll be dealing with are three in ancient Rome. We'll have, if you still remember, we will have the speech by Octavian, which was reconstructed by Deus, what's his name, Deus something, right? This Roman historian who came 200 years after the events. And then you have Plutarch. Plutarch happens to be not a historian, but perhaps a literary critic. And he had those biographies where he talks about famous Romans and even famous Greeks, and he highlights their achievements in order for people to imitate and emulate them, and he also highlights their vulnerabilities so that he can tell people to try to kind of steer away from those vulnerabilities. And we will have poetry. From the time we're going to have a poem by the poet Horace, who was a Roman poet. And he is going to talk about Killupatra and Antony, as we're going to see. This is obviously not the end of the story, because if we only focus on Roman sources, it means that this is going to be one-sided, where we are only listening to a part of the story, not the whole story. And perhaps when we get to know that the Romans and the Egyptians had those animosities and those battles and wars between them, you would need to perhaps get another source or a number of sources so that you can have this balance between the sources. And this is actually what we're going to do when we go to Egyptian sources, and then we start to set the different types of sources against each other and come up perhaps with our own conclusion. And this is going to be reassessing Killupatra. I've been talking for quite some time now. I'm sure you have found it boring. So if you have any questions, any queries, any thoughts that you would like to share, go ahead. Can you hear me at all? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, doctor.
Would you like to contribute input? Would you like to say something before I proceed?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Doctor,
Yes, go ahead.
I took the course the
Last semester?
yeah, I took it with Miss Nuha.
Good.
Yeah, so
What's your
have
name?
I have يعني
Experience, mashallah, with the course, right?
yes.
Okay, no problem. What's your name?
Rina.
Zena.
Rina.
Vina.
No, with GH Rina.
Gina.
Yeah.
Okay. Gina, would you like to perhaps talk about Killupatra and what you think of her? Your assessment of Killupatra and how you see her?
I have information, but not a lot about her.
About Anthony, perhaps?
About Anthony and about her two brothers and
Can you give us this part? I mean, can you furnish this background? We would love to hear what you have to say about where she came from and stuff like that. Can you talk about this part?
Information about Cleopatra, do you
Yeah,
mean?
please. Historical information. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I don't remember يعني a lot of things,
Much.
but she was married his two brothers.
Yeah, she got married to two of her brothers, two, not one?
No, she one, the big
Okay,
one.
one. Okay.
But
Nice.
he was, I think, 30, is right? Years old.
What are you trying to say? That he was younger or older?
No, younger.
Younger, yes. I mean, yes.
He killed her sister, right? And about Roma, the Roman was hit Cleopatra, but the one things they saw it's good about Cleopatra. She was killed herself.
The fact that she committed suicide, she died a noble kind of death. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Gina, for the information. Go ahead. What's your name?
My name is Bashir. I want
Bashir. Okay, is it procedural? Is it about the LMS? Is it about Killupatra? Okay, go ahead. Okay.
I read a lot in the book about someone, I think it's named Plutarch or something like that. I don't know. He's a person.
Yeah, he is a person. Plutarch, yes.
Yeah.
What about him?
Who is that man exactly?
Like I said, he is a literary figure. He is more or less like a literary historian. He used to write, poetic criticism and stuff. And Plutarch is famous for his biographies, and he wrote a number of biographies on a number of Roman and Greek figures. And like I said, he wanted to give people lessons in good behavior when it comes to good people that he is featuring in his book, and also lessons of bad rulers and bad characters. And obviously the message would be that we should avoid doing what those bad people used to do. And the reason why we're having Plutarch, of course, because he wrote a biography on Antony, and this is going to be one of the Roman sources that we are, getting to know about Killupatra from. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Doctor,
Yes.
can I talk about the Cleopatra?
Can you what?
Talk about the Cleopatra. I have some information about her.
Okay, but can we keep them until perhaps later?
Okay, not a problem. Okay.
Okay. Remember, I said that we shouldn't lose sight. This is not a class in history, mind you, right? We're English literature major, we're not history major. The fact that we have historical events and historical texts would be because these are the contexts through which and these are the materials through which we develop our English major skills. And what are the English major skills that we have? I mean, the idea of analysis, analyzing stuff, making distinctions between primary and secondary sources, checking evidence and checking the authenticity of a piece of work, checking people's opinion, and perhaps making this distinction between facts and opinions, not confusing facts for opinions and stuff like that. So we shouldn't be so immersed in the historical details at the expense of the skills that we should develop. One big skill that I need you to develop as we proceed would be the idea of writing on and about something. You, mashallah, have all the information there is, but when it comes to translating that into essays, you don't do a good job. So obviously it's not about collecting information, it's not about memorizing, it's about reflecting on what you have read, and then you produce good essays where you have an argument and you're making an argument for or against something. Remember, people had very beautiful pieces of information last semester, but because of how they presented them, they failed. They failed because they either memorized stuff from the internet as is, or because they couldn't write. They wrote things in points, and we don't want points. When you write an essay, you don't write points, right? You ask them, they don't spend the a considerable amount of time on the question. They don't invest the right time on reading the question and getting to know what is actually required. I remember last semester there were people, we asked them to write about, the question obviously was not about Roman sources. It was about other sources. Because of the fact that they have seen the phrase Roman sources, they all wrote about Roman sources. And of course, all of them were to blame for having their marks suffer for that. A number of things you need to be aware of and alert to the idea that we're not interested in pure history. This is not pure history. These are contexts and materials that can allow us the opportunity to develop our skills. What are the skills that we're trying to develop together? It's the skill of writing essays, developing ideas, giving evidence, and stuff like that. Okay.
Doctor. Please, I have question.
Can we keep the questions until I finish, Ahmed?
Slide 6.
Keep the questions. I'm not using the slides yet. Okay. Anyway, mute your mic, please. Mute your mic.
Mute?
Yeah, please mute your mic. Yes, thank you. So in this chapter, we will be looking at the figure of Killupatra, and we will be investigating the following questions. How has Killupatra been portrayed in the modern world, which we did? How was Cleopatra represented in the ancient world? Of course, in this case, we'll be referring to Roman sources and also ancient Egyptian sources. We'll talk about the relationship between modern and ancient images of Cleopatra. We're going to see whether the evidence that we have from antiquity means ancient times, would they suggest that we should reassess our familiar modern image? Would our impressions about Kiribatra, would that collide with perhaps the evidence that we have from ancient times? Perhaps we have favorable views and opinions of Kiribatra, but when we go back to ancient history, we see sources that stress the fact that she wasn't that good, that she wasn't that morally upright, and all these kinds of things. So how much do the issues of today and our own ways of thinking impact on how we regard Killupatra? Again, We need to always remember that we are the byproducts of different cultures and different times. At one point, perhaps this was last semester or the semester before, people felt some kind of they felt bad when they got to know, for example, that she was at one point she got married to her brother, because this is not in our modern times. We don't have that, right? Not a brother and sister get married to each other. But this was okay at the time. This was okay in ancient Egypt, for example. So you shouldn't be taxing the character against your own background. You need to perhaps consider whatever actions they took in their context, not in your context. This is one of the things that we should be approaching Cleopatra against. You need to. Yes, go ahead. What's your name? What's your name? Hadir. Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
even in our religion, it's haram.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying, Hadir. I'm saying that remember that she lived 2,000 years ago, okay, and perhaps earlier than that, where at the culture of the time, this was fine, this was okay. So for us to come now and say that she was bad because she got married to her brother, that would be, so we will be doing her injustice. Because she was these practices were fine at the time, were okay. Anyway, we'll talk more about that perhaps later. Yes.
I know she married two leaders.
She married what?
Two leaders.
To what?
Two leaders.
She okay. She had. Yes, that's yeah. Yes.
So I don't understand how she married from her brother.
She married her brother at the beginning, and then after that, she met those two people, and she had she had relationships with them. She started off with her brother, obviously, and
I
then
don't know about this information.
You don't what?
I don't know about this information. She married from her brother.
Yeah, she got married to her brother. This is not the issue. The idea of who she married wouldn't be is not actually our focus. And what I was trying to say is that we shouldn't be judging her on our own terms, our own modern terms. She is the byproduct of her own age, and if you want to judge her, you need to check what used to happen at the time, and then perhaps you can be in a better position to judge her. But to judge her based on our own modern principles would be doing her injustice. No. Yes.
The Roman at that time, they were a Christian or not?
This was obviously, a number of years before Christianity. I mean, Christianity was, and perhaps this was before Christianity, I think. This was a little before Christianity, where people were pagan. Pagan means that they used to worship many gods, and those gods may be made of stone, made of dates. Okay, so they don't have this monotheism that we have in Christianity or Islam. Okay. Okay.
Hello, doctor.
Yes.
My name is Mona.
Okay.
Aren't the Rome were Christians?
The Romans?
The Romans
weren't they Christian?
No, they were not. No, they were not. This was again, like I said, this was before Christianity.
Okay, thank you.
Mute your mic, everyone. Just let us see why this is not working. Okay. Remember this map, which I shared with you last time? And you, on this map, we located Rome, which is far west and in the north, and you have Egypt in the south to the east, right? And of course, Egypt and Rome were two great empires at the time. Rome was perhaps a younger empire, and Egypt was suffering decline. So when Killupatra came, Egypt was already in decline. In decline means that it wasn't that advanced, it wasn't that rich, and it wasn't that powerful. Perhaps one big reason why Killupatra was trying to ally herself to Roman leaders was perhaps she was trying to restore the power that Egypt once had. So it wasn't all about love, it wasn't all about having relationships. Perhaps she was trying to forge new alliances with other parts of the world. And Rome, of course, happened at the time to be the biggest empire. Okay. Again, like I said, we're starting with Roman sources. So as a stepping stone to our exploration of how Cleopatra was depicted by the Romans, first let us think about the nature of ancient history and our relationship to the distant past. Again, we have a problem with the past, and whether to believe what other people are saying about the past. Should we take what they say for granted and on its merit because it's ancient and past, and we normally glorify and think highly of whatever comes from the past. Again, that would be wrong. If people are saying something, but perhaps other people, you need to check whether what they are saying is correct or wrong. Objectivity is very important, and historical objectivity should be always checked. So you need to be on your guard. You need to keep your guard up at all times when it comes to dealing with sources from the past. Why do we have issues with the past and the sources that we get from the past? For very obvious reasons. Remember that we were not born at the time when the events took place. So we have those historical gaps between the events, so we cannot know for sure or for certain whether what happened. Whatever sources we have of the past is or are normally fragmentary. Fragmentary means that they are given to us in fragments. So it's like having a puzzle, and all you need to do is to perhaps put the puzzle pieces together, which is obviously not an easy thing to do. Again, you will have to also check the motivations of the people who give you the sources or who write stuff in the past, and see whether they are biased. They have their own biases. They have their own prejudices. Remember when we spoke about Cleopatra, and we said we cannot take what the Roman sources are saying about her for granted. Because if you study the Roman society at the time, you're going to find that this society or that society had their own apprehensions about women. Women were not presented in the best of lights. This was more or less a misogynist society. Misogyny is women hating. So the Roman society was a misogynist society where women were little valued. So it would only be natural to see that Killupatra is depicted in a negative way. Also, remember that when we spoke about the idea that Rome was a republic and it wasn't a monarchy or a kingdom. And there is obviously a difference. Monarchy means that you have parliaments, that you have elected officials. There is democracy in one way or another. But Killupatra was a queen, and a queen is somebody who inherits the throne, the government from perhaps a father or a relative, and she doesn't have to run for office, or she doesn't have to worry about the elections and stuff. So perhaps the Romans, when they depicted her in a negative way, was because they were fearful of the fact that as a queen, if she takes over Rome, she would turn Rome into a dictatorship, into a kingdom or a monarchy where there is only one voice, which is the voice of the sitting king or the sitting queen. This was also perhaps one reason why she was depicted in a bad light. And also the Roman society was a moral society. Moral means that I mean, the idea of having illicit relationships between men and women was not also. They were pagan and everything, but they were also moral. So according to them, for Killupatra to have relationships with two of the leaders was a bad thing, was morally unacceptable, and that would be also a third reason why she was depicted the way she was. Again, you will have to explore these motives when it comes to history, whether this applies to Cleopatra or anybody else for that matter. Okay. Okay, so constructing Cleopatra and having a spin, especially when it comes to presenting her in the modern times. Remember also what we said about Killupatra as being a peripheral historical figure. Peripheral means that she could have been a secondary character that not so many people know of. Had it not been for the fact that she came in contact and in relation with three Roman figures, very important ones. Julius Caesar, Antony, and Octavian. Had it not been for those interactions, she would have gone down as a mere queen, a queen that we know about in history and full stop. So part of her popularity and part of his reputation comes from the fact, I mean, at least in the Western popular imagination, because Western tradition is obviously based on, Rome and Greece. So had it not been for those relationships that she had with Roman figures, she would have gone down in history as just another queen. And what are the rules that we have of her when it comes to Western tradition? She was known as a lover, an ally, and as an enemy of Rome and its people. This is how she is defined in the Western imagination.
Doctor?
Yeah, go ahead. What's your name?
My name is Taima.
Okay, Taima. Go ahead, Taima.
Yeah, is Cleopatra attacked Roma, or she just has a relationship?
I'm not sure I understood. Can you rephrase the question, please?
I mean, did Cleopatra attack Roma, or she just has a relationship?
Yeah, she was actually she was defeated by the Romans. First of all, it was Julius Caesar, and then Julius Caesar got killed or assassinated, and then there was Antony after him, and the relationship with Antony started off as they started off as enemies. He went to Egypt and he took over. They defeated Egypt when she was queen, and she was summoned or asked to come over before Antony. And she took her time, and when she went to him, she was dressed in her best, and she made those, she appealed to him in one way or another. She was very beautiful, and she made sure that she looks this way and that she looks royal. And it so happened that he got captivated by her presence and he fell in love with her. So she was defeated by the Romans on a number of occasions, and the last time was the Battle of Actium, when she was with Antony, and they joined forces together, and they were one side against the Romans, and they got defeated. And at the end, of course, both of them committed suicide. Okay, so we'll go all the way to ancient Rome, and we're going to revisit the Roman sources and see how Killupatra was presented. So, to explore the nature of ancient history a little further, and to start our investigation into the Romans' characterization of Cleopatra, we're turning to reading 1.1. And reading 1.1 is a condensed version of a speech Octavian was said to have given a little before the Battle of Actium. So who found the speech? It's historian Cassius Dio. Cassius Dio is a Roman historian who was born 200 years after the events. And this has to be borne in mind. We're talking about somebody who is writing about the events 200 years after they took place. So you need to take what he said with a grain of salt. You shouldn't be accepting what he's said as is. So this is going to be about our first source. It's Cassius Dio. Cassius Dio, the Roman historian, is giving us a reconstructed speech by Octavian. Let's go to the speech. You have it in the book, by the way, and I have it for you here.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, you have it and I have it for you. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I would like you to read the speech, whether from the screen or from the book. And remember, the speech, of course, is about Antony and Killupatra. See how Antony and Killupatra are presented and how they are described by Augustus or by Octavian. So Octavian and Augustus are the same person. Okay? Go ahead, and I'll give you perhaps 3 minutes to do just that. Remember, the speech is a little long, so you'll have to finish, and when you finish, I would like you to let me know so that I can go down. Can we do that? Yalla, go ahead. I'm sorry, I did something wrong. I did that too. Sorry. The math is not working. I have to do something about it. Wait. Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yeah, but the screen is so small now.
Yeah, just give me a second and make it as big as I can. Is it small now? Hello?
No, it's not small, but it's good. It's good.
Yeah, it is very good because this is the biggest that it can become. So people are reading the first Roman source. Let me know when you have finished this part so that we can move to the second part of the speech. I'm hopeful that you guys are taking down notes. I mean, keywords, words that you think are important in the portrayal and depiction of the character of Killupatra, of Antony. See? So it should, yeah, what? Yes.
This is part of the original speech, or this is the whole speech?
No, this is part of it. The other part is this one. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So
Just
are you
page 27, yeah?
What?
Just the page 27.
Yeah, yes, it's reading 1.1. Can't you see what I have on the screen? I need to know what is it that you can see on the screen.
Yeah, it's clear, yeah. So
Okay, it's big. Big, is it big?
Yes.
I think it's, yeah, okay, good.
Big and
so, okay.
Doctor.
Yes.
I won't understand what require.
Okay, so what is required is that I would like you to read whatever is in front of your eyes now, and I would like you to tell me what the writer is saying about Killupatra and whether what he is saying is positive or negative and stuff like that. Okay?
Okay.
This has taken so long. Can we move on to the second? What?
Doctor, I finished.
Okay.
We finished.
Yes.
Yeah, read the second part. Okay, read the second part.
Okay.
I finished the.
Okay, go to the second part.
Because I read it from the.
Nice, very good. Mute your mic. Mute your mic. Ahmad, mute your mic.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so can we talk about it now? So first of all, I mean, if you have perhaps taken down notes, what did you write in your notes? Can we have people telling us what they have taken down as notes? Go ahead. Yeah, what's your name?
Anna?
Yes.
Yes. First, he started the speech while he was talking about Rome. How is it the strongest country in the entire world, and how their men are making the whole world fear from them, and how Egypt for him is the opposite side because they are worshipping a woman and they don't respect women in those times. And then he moved into talking badly about Egypt and what they are worship and how their behaviors and everything else, and mocking them in a bad way. And lastly, he was
Egypt. Did he talk bad about Egypt? Okay. Just kidding. Okay, Mona, go on. I'm just kidding.
That's what I read. And then lastly, he was talking about how great Mark Antony was and how strong soldier he was. But once he was captivated by Cleopatra's charm, he was a different person, and people were not afraid of him anymore. They consider him a joke. Not like he was. Yes, that's what I understood from the.
Yeah, excellent, yeah, Mona. Thank you. Mona, what's your full name?
Mona Muhammad Ali.
Okay, Mona. Thank you so much for those very valuable insights into the speech. Can we have somebody else?
Yes, can I talk?
Yes, please.
Yeah. What's your name?
Noor Ahmed.
Noora, go ahead.
I think the Romans were absent because the Queen of Egypt was a woman. And what to drive them more insane was the guards of the women was where the Roman.
So wait, Noora. Obviously, somebody is having his or her mic on. Can we kindly mute our mics? Except for the one who is speaking, of course. Okay, Noora, we're not. These are impressions that you are collecting from here and there. I would like you to focus on the speech. So, what do you have to say about the speech? Yeah, Noora.
Okay, Romans were absent because the Queen of Egypt was a woman. And what drove them more insane was the guards of that.
We lost you. Are you still there? We momentarily lost you. Are you still there? No, we cannot.
Can you hear me?
No, we now can. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I think the Romans were absent because the Queen of Egypt.
Yeah, you said that 3 times. Yeah. Can we go beyond this point?
Okay, because I lost the connect of the internet, so I didn't know.
By the way,
okay,
Noora, just give me a second. Somebody is writing on the group right now, and this is very disruptive, not for me because I ignored the group entirely during class, but this is disruptive for your other colleagues. Okay, don't you ever write on the group during classes. Otherwise, we're going to block you. We're going to destroy the whole group, and I mean, there is nothing that can, I don't know. We can live without groups, obviously. Okay, so stop using the group during the class. Okay, go on.
Doctor?
Yes.
Can I share with you?
She's not done yet. I mean, Noora is obviously saying something. Yeah, go on, yeah, Noora.
No. خلاص. I done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Noora, thank you so much. Can we have somebody else?
Can I say?
Yeah, say. Yes.
My name is Nida.
Okay, Nida.
Nida.
Can we finish with Nida first and then move to you? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The speech is describe the Antony, and he was bewitched by the women and accursed, and because his love her, and they said about they lose the soldier. He was very brave soldier and was fight valor when he served with the army, and he was good and defeated with the country.
So what happened to him then? What happened to him, Nida?
He is like charmed by this woman, and he defeat for her and do everything and fight everything for her.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you, Nida. Thank you so much. We have room for one more speaker. There's somebody, I mean, a male voice was there at one point. If you would like to come to the mic and say something.
Can I talk, please?
No, it's somebody was trying to say, a male voice.
Excuse me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're excused. Go ahead.
Can I speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. We cannot hear anything, obviously. Okay. Can we have somebody else?
Yes, please. Can I talk?
Yes.
Hello?
I think
obviously we have two people trying to speak at the same time, and this is not working.
Doctor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I noticed something in this speech.
Yeah.
When we can notice that women have no rules in ancient Romans, because the speech was talking in a bad way about how ancient Egypt were follow the woman, and they call her a slave of women. So
okay.
I noticed this thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, right. So what caught your eyes in terms of the description? Let's focus on the description. Give me specific words that would eventually tell you that this is negative. When Octavian or when Augustus or Octavian said what are the words that made you come up with the conclusion that this is negative and this is bad about Killupatra? Give me specific adjectives or specific words. Let's start. Okay, we're going to talk about three people. I would like you to first of all start with what he said about Killupatra. I mean, give me words and keywords that told you that he is talking about her in a negative way, and then move on to Egypt and what he said about Egyptians, and then move on to Antony, if we have anything about Antony. Can we do that? So let's start with Killupatra. Give me words from the text, from the reading, that made you feel what you felt, I mean, negative as it is about Killupatra. Can we have that?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Nida.
Okay, Nida.
They said she is a crossed woman.
She's a what?
A crossed woman.
I haven't seen this word. Where is this word?
After bewitched by that crossed woman.
Accursed. The fact that she was an accursed woman. Accursed means cursed. I mean that she. This is some kind of you know what cursing is when you curse somebody.
I understand. Yes, I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's God damned, in other words.
It's bad. It's bad
yes.
for
describe
Cleopatra in a bad way, right?
Yes, absolutely. Any other adjectives that we have of Killupatra?
Okay,
yes, Doctor?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Rufaida.
Okay, Rufaida.
They are not related by a man, but are they silver for a woman?
Yeah, this is talking about Egyptians. Let's focus on Killupatra first.
Okay. Sorry.
Doctor?
Yeah, go ahead.
In the speech, in the beginning of the speech, they say by a woman of Egypt. They didn't mention
Her name. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is bad enough. Yes, yes. Yes.
And in the second paragraph, they said, but are the slaves of a woman. So,
Yeah.
And the third paragraph, he is bewitched by that accused woman. So they said that she was a witch or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Let's talk about Egyptians and how Egyptians were portrayed in the speech. Were they presented in a positive way or a negative way? What do you think?
Can I speak? Negative.
Yes, yes. Negative.
Yes, doctor. Negative.
Yeah. Okay, give me statements or sentences that indicate that show us that.
Doctor, can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
They blamed their bodies to make them appear immortal.
Okay, which is obviously bad for the Romans. They embalm their bodies. عارفين التحنيط. This is an ancient Egyptian habit when they take whatever is inside the body so that they can have it, I don't know what they use it. This is obviously one of the secrets. That's why you see mummies, being kept in good shape for thousands of years. Okay, so obviously this was bad for the Romans. Yeah, go ahead.
They are most forward in affirmity, but most
yes.
bad in courage.
Yes, okay.
But worst of all, they are slave to a woman.
Which is obviously very bad. I mean, being Egyptian, I feel bad about that. The slaves of a woman, the fact that they are not ruled by a man, right? Okay, good.
Because they don't respect women, so how can a woman rule them all?
Yes.
Doctor?
Yes.
They describe this in so bad words like worship reptiles and pits as gods. Yeah, it's so bad.
Yes, yes. They worship. They, of course, is a reference to Egyptians.
Yes.
They worship reptiles and beasts as gods. Yeah, that's okay.
Doctor?
Good. Yeah.
My name is Bashair.
Bashair.
In the first paragraph, they describe the Egyptians as a rebel.
Yeah, that's bad enough. Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. Let's talk about Anthony. Do we have Anthony mentioned in any of that? Do we have a reference or any references for that? Yes.
Also in a bad way.
Yes. What did they say about, what did the speech say about Anthony?
Blind and mad.
Yeah, blind and mad, yes. What else?
He was abandoned.
Yes, he is either blind to reason or mad. Yes.
He indulges in a life of royal luxury and pampers himself as a woman. So they're comparing him to a woman.
Bacteria. Okay. Very bad. Now,
He
was
against. Okay.
strong leader.
Can we have one at a time? Yeah, somebody was saying something. Go ahead.
Yes. I said he was the leader and strong man. Yes.
Yeah, obviously he's not a leader anymore, right? Because I mean he has enslaved himself to a woman, like what Octavian is saying.
Yes, he was a good leader after he married from Cleopatra.
Before, you mean before?
Yes, before Cleopatra.
Yeah, he was such a great leader. I mean, Antony is such a big name in Roman history, of course.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, yes.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Doctor?
This is what when I read the speech, these are the things that I thought of. I would like you to look at them and tell me whether you agree with me or not. When I divided my analysis into a number of things. First, I started off with how the Romans look at themselves, how they see themselves. And they saw themselves as the rulers of the greatest, remember, greatest, okay? And the best parts of the world, right? And so to be the greatest and to be spurned and trampled upon by a woman, that was bad, right? So this is how the Romans looked at themselves, okay? They also looked at, they said that they surpassed all other nations in valor. Valor means courage, the fact that they were very courageous. Okay, and of course they look at Egyptians as rabble, and they said the natives of Alexandria and of Egypt, and obviously for Romans, Alexandria and Egypt were not good places according to them. Okay, but this is how the Romans looked at themselves, and how do how did they see Egyptians? What did they say about it? They worship reptiles and beasts. Can you see that? So if you worship reptiles, is that a good thing to do? To worship reptiles and beasts? Is that a good thing?
To them, no.
No. Not to anybody. No. Yes. So this is one negative thing about Egyptians. What else about Egyptians that Romans didn't like? The fact that they embalm their bodies to make them appear immortal. That the fact that they most forward in effrontery, the fact that they backward when it comes to courage, and worst of all, they are not ruled by a man, but are the slaves of a woman. Can you see?
Yes.
For them, this is obviously very bad. Let's look at how Killupatra is portrayed. Somebody said that there was never a mention of her name. Her name was not mentioned. She was referred to as a woman, right? The woman, yes. A woman, right? A cursed woman, right? And this is an yeah. And this is again, this is part of the Roman culture. They didn't have high opinions of women. For them, women are not important. So for Egyptians to be ruled by a woman, this was a bad thing for Romans. And this is, remember I told you that this is misogynist. Misogynist is this attitude, this bad attitude towards women. When you hate women, they call you a misogynist. This is part of the misogyny of the Roman culture. Okay, so woman. See how many times the word woman was repeated. Can you count them? Can you count the number of times?
2.
2? Only 2?
No, 3. 3.
Only 3? Yes, 3. Yes.
Yes, 3. One, in every paragraph there is 1.
Yes. Yeah. Very good. Okay. Okay. So negative things about Egyptians, again, when they refer to them as being yonks. Yonks are, is a bad word when you talk about men. Again, there is this stress on the idea of bewitching and witchcraft, the fact that it was in love that Antony felt for Cleopatra, and Cleopatra felt for Antony. It was witchcraft, the fact that she exercised or practiced magic. She cast a spell on him, a magical spell on him. Okay. If you look at the, like I said, Antony is referred to as what? The fact that he has become less of a man, less of a leader, less of a soldier.
Bewitched.
Yeah, the fact that he's yes.
He lost
the fact,
his friends
yeah, the fact that he has embraced alien and barbaric customs. The customs of the Egyptians are referred to as barbaric and alien, strange and barbaric. Okay. Did you notice in terms of language, look at the language and how it is used. Look at this sentence where, Octavian says he is bewitched. What kind of sentence is it? If I give you choices, this is an active or a passive sentence. He is bewitched.
Passive.
This is passive.
Passive.
No, it's passive.
Yes, passive.
Okay, it's a passive sentence where you normally have the subject becoming an object. So if you're a subject, it means that you do stuff, you initiate stuff. If you're an object, it means that you only receive things. So now Antony is a receiver, is on the receiving end. He gets dictated. Killupatra is manipulating him. He is more or less like a plaything, a toy in her hand. This is what Octavian is trying to say by using the passive here. And also you have another passive when he says, and so being enslaved by her, right? Don't you think that this is another passive? Again, which is an indication that he is a mere object in her hands. He is a plaything, right?
Doctor.
Yes.
Egypt. Why wrong? Egypt.
Egypt is wrong because the Romans see Egypt as wrong. They believe that the Egyptians believe in magic. They believe that the Egyptians worship reptiles and beasts. They believe that the Egyptians are not courageous enough, and the fact that to cap it all, they are ruled by a woman, and women for them meant very little. Okay? Okay, so let's move to, I'm not going to talk about that because we have already spoken about it. Let's move to the second source, and the second source here is Plutarch's Antony. Remember when we spoke about Plutarch and we said that he wrote biographies, and those biographies were meant to teach people lessons. You can have a fallen hero like Antony in order to get the message that you shouldn't be behaving the way he did. You can have also heroes and they're good examples so that you can copy and imitate them. So this is another Roman source, and it is by Plutarch. Okay, so what I want you to do is I would like you to read this part that says, read the following brief excerpt in which Plutarch first introduces Cleopatra into his biography of Antony. Can you do that? Which starts with the love for Kiribatra. Can you do that? Yes, you can. Go ahead. You guys have 2 minutes because it's not very long. Yes, can you read that? You can see that on the screen, right?
Which page in book?
It's actually it's the
nine.
Page 9.
yeah, page 9. Page
Okay,
9.
thank you.
Like we did with the other text, I would like you to also perhaps underline whatever you think is important, see how Killupatra is presented, and stuff like that. Do we still have Rebecca? Are you still there? Obviously, she left. Okay.
Doctor, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Why in the book they mentioned only the Roman sources?
That's a very good question. What's your name?
Taima.
Taima, we also have Egyptian sources that were coming to, but they are not as rich. They are not as many as those Roman sources, and we'll talk about that, inshallah. Okay?
Okay.
I think we're done because it's a small paragraph, right? Okay, my question is it as negative? Do we have those negative, touches that we have noticed in the other extract?
Yes.
Okay. So this is about Cleopatra more or about Antony? What do you think?
Antony?
It's more about Antony. Yeah.
Can you again repeat the question, please?
My question is about the extract that you have just read, and whether it's more about Cleopatra or about Antony, or perhaps it's about both and how, or whether it's negative. Okay, go ahead. What's your name?
Taima.
Okay, Taima, go ahead.
The speech is talking about Antony and his feelings toward Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
they didn't describe it in a bad way.
Yeah, it's also negative, right?
Yes.
So, Taima, what makes you believe that it's negative? Do you have keywords that you can share with us?
I think mostly they didn't mention her as a human. They referred to her as like it. I lost the word actually.
It's okay, Taima. You're doing an excellent job. Thank you. Okay, so the love for Cleopatra. So, of course, this is Antonio's love for Cleopatra, which now entered his life. Obviously, his is a reference to Antony, came as the final and crowning mischief. The word mischief is bad, right? Which could befall him. Plutarch is trying to say that there is nothing worse than what he did, right? It excited to the point of madness many passions which had hitherto lain concealed. Okay, so you can have feelings, you can have emotions, but they lay dormant. Dormant means that they are stifled inside you. Okay, which is fine, but to have them erupt the way they did with Antony, this is what Plutarch does not agree with. He says that we all have emotions, but we can control them. But with Killupatra, obviously, Antony couldn't. And this is obviously going to corrupt all his good points and qualities. And he would fall an easy victim to the temptations of Cleopatra. Okay, so in this passage, as in the extract from Cassius D, we can see that Cleopatra is presented as a fatal influence on Antony. She is a fatal means deadly, fatal influence on Antony. She is the personification of temptation, and Antony is obviously unable to resist her and her charm. Plutarch believes that Killupatra brings out the worst in Antony and suppresses the best. And the fact that under her influence, Antony is depicted as a man who has lost his mental faculties and with them all sense of responsibility. His love for Kiribatra is depicted as madness that opened the floodgates, keeping in check the baser desires and passions lurking in Antony. So see how bad that is. Okay, let's read the second part of the extract and see how whether Plutarch will go on trashing Killupatra or doing what? When we start with her own beauty, go ahead.
Sir?
Yes.
I think so because of this, maybe because Octavian.
I'm not sure. Come again?
I think so. Mark and Antony went back to marry Octavian. That's why she got jealous.
Who's jealous of whom, yeah, Rebecca?
Cleopatra is jealous of Mark Antony because he married a daughter of Octavian.
How they are presented here in the chapter is different. We're not. This is actually not what the chapter is about here, Rebecca. The chapter is about the relationship that they have, the fact that they are presented as in love, and the influence or the impact of this love on Antony. You need to remember that this is said from the perspective of Plutarch, who happens to be a male Roman who believes, who does not believe that women are a big deal. So what he is saying here is that Killupatra is a negative influence on Antony. Okay, is that clear enough?
Yeah.
So if you're done with this extract, we're ready to hear voices. So is it a continuation of what Plutarch started off? Remember, he was, trashing Antony by referring to the fact that he was, completely under the control of Killupatra and that he lost all sense. Is he doing that in this part again? Okay. So the focus in this part is on what? Yeah, go ahead. What's your name?
Taima.
Okay, Taima, go ahead.
I think in this biography of Antony, what is his name? Okay, I think that he talked that Cleopatra affects on Antony in psychology. In psychology.
No, this part is not about psychology as much as it is about witchcraft, magic. The fact
Okay.
that somehow Kiribatra could cast a spell on Antony. That's why he is behaving the way he does. I mean, he lost all control because of her, whether through the charm that she worked on him or the charm of her presence. The fact that she was irresistible. Whether she was irresistible because of her character, whether she was irresistible because of the magic that she used to practice on him. So actually, perhaps the focus this time around is on her strength of character, the fact that she has a peculiar force of character which pervaded her every word and action. So this part is again about how strong the character of Killupatra was.
Yeah, doctor.
Yes.
And also she led him to lose his mental faculties and
Yes.
destruction his personality.
Yeah, she destroyed his personality.
Yeah.
And again, this is because of how the sheer strength of her character, the fact
Yes.
that she was very powerful.
Yes.
She was a very powerful woman.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of the examples. Here we're having an example when Antony came to Egypt and he defeated obviously the Egyptians under Cleopatra, and he summoned her. Summoned her means that he asked her to come. He said, listen, go and ask her to come to me. And she took her time and she dragged her feet. She didn't go right away. She made sure that he waits for her, and he was waiting. There was this kind of excitement on his part. He as a military leader and as a Roman leader, whenever he asks somebody or calls for somebody to come, the individual comes right away. But she didn't. She took her time. She made sure that she dresses in a certain way so that when she went to him, he was captivated by her character, the way she speaks, the way she dresses, and he fell in love with her, obviously at first sight. So right at the beginning of this passage, Plutarch makes it clear that Killupatra did not respond to Antony in a subservient fashion. She didn't just go. Remember, she is a queen. So rather than rushing straight off to Tarsus in response to his calls and summons, she made him wait to the point where her arrival seemed to be on her own terms. Rather, she was defeated and everything, but she went to him on her own terms. She didn't immediately go to him when he asked her to come over. And the manner of her arrival was quite spectacular. She had this exotic display of wealth and luxury. You know, it's the images that you have of Cleopatra nowadays from movies where she dresses in her finest. She looks like a goddess of love. And she has people around her, perhaps carrying part of her dress. And she was having this aura of grandeur and of greatness around her. And that would be perhaps one big reason why he fell in love with her. Again, Plutarch is referring to her death, the fact that she died a noble kind of death. Spoke about that, the fact that along with Antony and Killupatra, when they died, they committed suicide. They didn't turn themselves over to Octavian. They took their own lives, and at the time this was to do just that was a great thing to do. If you get defeated in a battle and you have to surrender, you don't go and surrender, because this is humiliating for you. What do people do? They would take their own lives. They would commit suicide. They prefer to commit suicide to giving themselves up to their enemies. And this is what she did. And by the way, this was a Roman practice, and that perhaps was one good reason why they liked her. The fact that Roman soldiers, if they get defeated, they kill themselves. So when she did just that, when she killed herself, when she committed suicide, Plutarch, praised that in her. He said this is one redeeming point. This is a good thing to do. And then we move to the poem, and the poem is by Horace. And of course, you need to always remember that when we deal with literature and poem, this is not historical records. These are not objective historical records that we can rely on. They can give us a glimpse into reality, but you wouldn't count heavily on them, because these are mere works of literature, and they may be there are things that are, of course, omitted and dropped, you wouldn't look for a historical authenticity when it comes to poetry and when it comes to literature, because obviously the function of poetry and literature is not to give you history, right? You go, if you check facts, you go somewhere else. You go to historical books and stuff like that, not poetry. So what we're trying to say here is that you need to take what Horace is going to say in his poem with a grain of salt. You shouldn't accept what he says. There are other reasons that would also make you cautious when you deal with Horace. Okay, he is a poet, and he's not supposed to give you the whole truth. You don't look for truth and objectivity in a poem. This is one thing. Remember that Horace was a Roman, and as a Roman, he was, of course, like all the Romans, an enemy to Cleopatra. Remember that he is a man, and Roman men have very little regard for women, right? And they are misogynist by nature. And you need to also remember that that he was a Roman citizen who values very much being or living in a democratic society where there are elected officials. So if Kiribatra goes there and takes over, and she is a queen, she will impose this rigid rule, and she may end up becoming a dictator, and which is something that Romans hate. Anyway, I would like you to read the poem. You have the poem in front of your eyes. Can you see that? Can you see the poem?
Yes, doctor. Yes,
So I would like you to read the poem, and again, like you did with the other two sources, I would like you to see whether Killupatra is presented in a nice way or not, whether there is mention of Egyptians, or whether Antony is featured in the poem, and how. Go ahead. You guys have perhaps 4 minutes, because poems are do not lend themselves to easy interpretation easily. Just read and see what will come out. Done?
Yes.
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, good. So, are we having the same attitude towards Cleopatra and Antony?
Yes, but in a different way.
Okay, so how different? Let's talk about it.
Well, first of all,
What's your name?
Muna.
Mona, yes.
Yes. First of all, he talks about like a celebration, and then he said about Cleopatra that is a dictarian, and she played on Mark Antony, but then he was talking how noble she was, the way she died. But before he was describing her as a monster, but then he was honoring her for the way she killed herself or committed suicide, for that matter.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mona. Can we have somebody else?
Can I speak?
Yeah, speak. What's your name?
Zakia.
Zakia, go ahead.
Antony isn't mentioned in this poem. The only one who's mentioned is
You need
Caesar.
to raise your voice here, Zakia.
Yeah, sorry?
Yeah, raise your voice.
Okay. Antony is not mentioned in the poem. It is Caesar who is mentioned. And it talks about how when she was about to lose in the war, when she realized that she was losing, she flies to Italy and goes to Caesar to seek shelter from him.
Are you sure? You are okay. But this was a recollection of what happened at one point. But again, the poem is still about Antony and Cleopatra.
Okay.
Okay, go on.
Yes, at first she's portrayed as someone who is evil and someone who is attempting to destroy Rome, but then once she realizes that she is unable to do so, it shows how she faces loss, and then eventually she's described in with respect at the end of the poem, because he talks about how she chose, she did not wish to cease to be queen. As in, she was a humble woman, and she's described as a humble woman because she chooses her own death rather than letting herself be humiliated by being taken back to Rome after losing.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. By the way, I mean, she didn't choose to be humble. She was humbled down as a Zacchaeus when she got defeated. She didn't want to feel humbled down when they can take her to Rome and then they humiliate her in their. I mean, they are obviously going to celebrate their triumph across the streets, and she would be part of this parade that they are going to have as a humble woman. So it's not a choice that she made to become humble. No, actually, by killing herself, she was trying to tell them that I'm as equal, I am as brave and everything. You haven't taken away my dignity and my pride.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Zacchaeus. You're doing an excellent job. Okay, what's your name?
My name is Samah Diab.
Okay, Samah.
Yeah, I noticed here they mentioned Cleopatra like the queen, not her name, because they don't like they mentioned the queen in the anger way, because they don't
Yes.
like to put the Rome in under the one hand, because they don't like the queen or the king or
yes,
like
the fact that the word queen has bad associations.
Yes,
bad meanings for the
yes,
Romans.
yes, like this.
Yes. Thank you, Samah.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Doctor?
Yes, go ahead. What's your name?
Taima.
Taima, okay.
Cleopatra killed herself to keep on her honor, or just to show she wants to tell the Roman that she's not that bad as they think, because she followed their traditions and killed herself.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, she her honor as a queen. She was trying to keep her honor as a queen, as the queen of a big country. She again, like all great people, they don't want to surrender themselves so that they get humiliated. And of course, taking your own life, committing suicide is a very difficult decision. But to come to this decision was, according to Horace and others, was a big deal. Okay, it's not easy. It's not, an easy decision to decide to kill your own self. Are you getting the idea?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, do you have a change of heart on the part of the poet? Somebody said that perhaps this was Mona. She said that he started off by perhaps trashing her and saying bad things about her.
Yes.
Right? And then over time, he started to perhaps change to and appreciate what she did towards the end. So we have a change of heart, we have a change of tone, right?
Yes.
Which is more or less similar to Plutarch. Plutarch said very bad stuff about her and about Antony and the control that she had and maintained on Antony. But towards the end, he said we still have, we shouldn't deny the fact that she died a noble kind of death, right?
Because it wasn't an easy death. As
Yeah,
well.
again, absolutely. It wasn't easy.
The worst
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, to kill yourself it's not easy, of course.
And in a slow death, so.
And it's not noble either.
You
It's
respect
not
her
what?
strength.
It's not
It's
what?
not noble either to kill yourself.
Well, it depends also on the culture. Remember, I told you that in Roman culture, if you are a soldier and you get defeated, you shouldn't surrender yourself. You shouldn't give yourself up to your enemy. So what is it that you do instead? You kill your own self. According to the Romans, this was a noble kind of death. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This is how I saw the poem. These are the highlightings and the circling that I did. Okay, remember that if you compare the poem to the speech, you're going to find that the speech of Octavian came before the battle, while the poem came after the battle, right? So what is it that Octavian was trying to do in the speech? He was trying to justify why he has to go and fight against another military, a Roman military leader who happens to be Antony. He was trying to find justifications. Okay, so in the poem we have Horus actually celebrating and marking the victory. This came after the victory. Okay. So after the victory, it means that the specter of having Rome turning into a dictatorship is over, because Antony and Cleopatra are now defeated and killed. So now they can celebrate, they can drink and celebrate with unfettered feet. Unfettered means that they have the freedom to move. Unfettered means unchained. I mean, they have gotten rid of the chains. They can move around and they can celebrate and they can have feasts. Okay, so how is Cleopatra described? She's described as a mad queen. So the word mad is repeated at least 4 times. 4 times, but every and each, we have different synonyms or different words. You have mad queen, right? You also have crazed. Crazed is a variation on madness. You have madness again. You have deranged. If you describe somebody as deranged, it means that he or she is out of his mind. He is crazy. Okay? So she is described as a mad queen, and her people, the Egyptians, are described as contaminated flock of men. Contaminated means that there is she is more or less like an infection or a virus. Okay, and the people of Egypt are all contaminated and infected with this kind of virus. Again, towards the middle of the poem is going to show some kind of pity and mercy on her by referring to Caesar as a hawk, and obviously a hawk is a bird of prey. Bird of prey means that beasts of prey and birds of prey are those hunting birds that do not stop at anything to perhaps have their prey. So Caesar is described as a hawk, and she is described as a dove, with the meek associations of doves, the fact that they are peaceful, as a hare, Okay, again, she is a monster. I mean, he doesn't deny, or he doesn't say that she's good or anything. He says that she's a monster, but she looked for a nobler death. Nobler because she didn't fear anything. She didn't fear death, and she was very courageous and daring. And this is perhaps one good reason why she would be applauded and she would be, thought highly of at the end. The fact that she died a noble kind of death. Okay, is that clear, everyone?
Yes, Doctor, so clear.
Okay.
Yes, it's very
go
clear.
ahead. Okay.
I
Yes.
can't count the poem in the book. Is it
Can you
in the
have
book?
what?
I can't count the poem in the book.
Let me check where did I get
Last page. Last page.
It's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, the last page.
It's at the end of the chapter. Yeah,
Yes.
I took it from there, by the way. Anyway, we're going to stop on this note and with this item. I'll give you perhaps a minute or two for questions if you have any.
Yes, teacher, I have a question.
Yes, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
How many courses are there in this semester, please?
We'll check with the coordinator and we'll have it posted on the LMS. If not tomorrow, definitely it will be next week, inshallah. They are between four and 6. Yes.
Okay.
So whatever you see on the LMS is not updated yet. So wait and see. Okay. Any more questions, everyone?
Yes, Doctor.
What
please.
chapters are in? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Doctor, are you going to send the records for the lecture?
Yeah, I always do that.
Lecture, not the lecture or the records in LMS?
Yes, I sent you yesterday. Yesterday, I sent you the last week's lecture. If you have, perhaps you haven't noticed. I sent you an old recording and a new one. Check them, and after we finish this class, I'll send you the recording of today's class, inshallah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
You're welcome. I'll see you, inshallah, next week.
Doctor,
yes.
what chapters are? I have a question.
You have the Jama'a, why don't you check the LMS for the course calendar? I think I shared the course calendar last time with you.
Yes.
Okay, you have two books. Book one will have Killupatra, will have Christopher Marlowe, Cézanne. I think in book two, Tradition and Descent, we will have Plato, we will have poetry, and we will also have Ireland. Okay? If there are any updates, I'll let you know, inshallah.
Sir?
Yes.
Doctor, what's